Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a truly transformative journey together. We are taking the simple, comforting act of baking and totally flipping it on its head. This isn't just about making your house smell amazing on a Sunday afternoon, though honestly, that is a fantastic bonus. This guide is all about shifting your mindset. We're going to explore exactly how you can make that incredible leap from a passionate home baker into a true entrepreneur. By breaking down the absolute fundamental building blocks of baking, we'll uncover how a few basic ingredients can become the rock-solid foundation of a ready-to-sell product. So, if you've ever found yourself wondering if that baking hobby could actually pay the bills, you are in exactly the right place. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll cover the science of bread magic, the 5 basic bread steps, the one-dough strategy, common baker mistakes, and finally, making that jump from kitchen to business world. Let's get right into it. First step, Section 1, the science of bread magic. Okay, let's dive into this. If you're going to build a successful business, you've got to master your product from the microscopic level up. It all starts with the core alchemy of what actually makes bread rise. At its absolute core, bread is wonderfully simple. It's just a magical combination of 3 primary things: flour, water, and yeast. But the true star of the show here, that's the yeast. You kind of have to think of yeast not just as an ingredient, but as a tiny living employee working tirelessly in your dough. It consumes what's around it and essentially breathes out carbon dioxide gas. Those little trapped bubbles of CO2 are exactly what magically inflate your dough, completely transforming it from a dense paste into something wonderfully fluffy and light. And this really brilliantly illustrates how baking isn't just an art form. It is a highly organized science. Every single ingredient has a very specific job description. Flour gives you that main structure through gluten. It's essentially the skeleton of your bread. Water or milk activates that gluten and wakes up your yeast. The yeast handles the fermentation, churning out our gas. But here's my absolute favorite part: sugar. Sugar isn't just there to make things sweet. It is literal yeast food. Think of it as the energy drink that gets your yeast working in absolute overdrive. Meanwhile, salt acts as the manager, keeping the flavor and the structure perfectly in check so things don't get totally out of hand. And finally, butter softens up the texture, giving you that rich, melt-in-your-mouth finish. Moving right along to Section 2, 5 basic bread steps. Once you understand that foundational science, the actual execution is universally simple. Every great baker, and honestly, every great bakery, follows this exact, simple, systematic flow. It's just 5 steps. Step 1 is mixing and kneading the dough to really develop that gluten structure. Step 2 is the first proofing, just letting it rest and rise. Step 3 is shaping it into whatever form you need for your product. Step 4 is the second proofing, allowing it to relax and expand one last time. And Step 5 is the final, amazing transformation: baking or frying. I want you to think of this rising dough as a metaphor for your growing business potential. As a beginner, it can definitely seem a little daunting, but rest assured, whether you're making a simple bun or a complex artisanal loaf, every single bread follows this exact same path. Next up, Section 3, the one-dough strategy. Now we're pivoting from the basics of baking straight into a hacker mindset. This is where we shift gears from being a home kitchen hobbyist into hyper-efficiency for small businesses. So here's a huge question you have to ask yourself when you're setting up shop. Why use only one dough for everything? It kind of seems counterintuitive, right? Don't you need dozens of complex, highly guarded secret recipes to run a successful bakery business? Well, here is what completely shatters that assumption. You absolutely do not need 50 recipes. A single base dough acts as the ultimate efficiency hack. From just this one master recipe, you can create soft buns, mini pizzas, and even fried donuts. For a small business that's just starting out, this is massive. It saves you crucial preparation time, it drastically lowers your ingredient costs because you're buying in bulk for just one recipe, and it's incredibly easy to understand and teach if you ever need to hire some help. You are entirely maximizing your output while minimizing your upfront capital and effort. It's a total game changer.
Which brings us to Section 4, common baker mistakes.
Look, out in the real world, there are absolutely going to be some pitfalls. We really need to talk about quality control to ensure you don't fail on day 1 of your new venture. The absolute most crucial point is understanding your ingredients' limits, especially your star employee, the yeast. Like we said, yeast is a very picky worker. If you try to speed up the process by using water that's way too hot, disaster strikes. The yeast literally dies. And dead yeast means zero carbon dioxide, which means you're basically left with a brick instead of a loaf of bread. Temperature control is absolutely paramount in a commercial setting. Furthermore, cutting corners on time will completely ruin your product. Not enough kneading, that means the gluten structure never forms properly. Underproofing, the gas hasn't fully expanded the dough. The result for both of those mistakes is hard, incredibly dense bread. Or say you're making donuts and your oil is too cold, the dough will just act like a giant sponge and soak up all the grease. Now, I'm definitely not telling you this to scare you. You shouldn't fear making mistakes while you learn. That is a huge part of the journey. But recognizing these specific errors ensures your product remains top tier when you actually start selling to customers. All right, finally, Section 5, From Kitchen to Business World. Now, for the absolute best part. This is the climactic realization of what all this science and strategy actually leads to, the financial payoff. Check out the massive contrast in the economics here. Because your ingredients, flour, water, yeast, a little sugar, and butter, are just so incredibly cheap, your base cost per unit of bread is remarkably low. We are talking about 50 to 80 cents in local currency, ringgit, for the raw materials, but the retail value, the actual price someone is more than willing to pay for a fresh, beautifully baked bun or a mini pizza, sits comfortably between 2 and 3 ringgit. Just let that sink in for a second. You aren't just making a bun. By applying heat and time to some super basic pantry staples, you are mathematically doubling or tripling your money, a 2 times to 3 times raw profit multiplier. That right there is the pure magic of baking from an entrepreneurial perspective. It is hands down one of the highest margin food products you can possibly create right from your own home. The source material for our explainer today features this incredibly powerful quote, and I really want to highlight it because it hits the nail on the head. In these 5 hours, we aren't just learning to make bread. We're learning a skill that can become a source of income. That is the core transformation we're aiming for. It's moving from seeing baking as just a chore or a fun weekend hobby to seeing it as a tangible, highly scalable skill that quite literally prints money. So, we arrive at our final thought for the day. You now understand the living science of yeast. You know the 5 universal steps, you are totally equipped with the hyper-efficient one-dose strategy, and you've seen the raw math that guarantees a massive profit margin. You have the recipe, the science, and the math right in front of you. So I have to ask, what is stopping you from turning your kitchen into a startup today?